Welcome everybody to the I Move TelePT Thursday community interview. I am so glad you're here today. So happy. Tonight, we're going to talk about proper nutrition before and after exercise. Now, I have to admit, there is so much information out there. It's a little bit overwhelming. You know, not only about what we should eat, but when we should eat it. And so tonight we're going to debunk all those myths and we're going to give you straight facts. This is going to be a great Facebook Live today. Welcome. If we have not met before, my name is Dr. Michael Gorman. I am the founder of I Move TelePT. We are a telehealth physical therapy practice. And this Welcome to the Community interview is really all about you all. So I want you to make sure that you interact and ask questions and give me thumbs up. If I say something that you really like hearing, give me the heart sign, the wow sign. Let's make this very, very interactive. And I do have a question tonight for you. My question is, what time frame do you usually eat before you exercise? So do you eat, if you're going to go on some type of strenuous walk or something like that, are you eating 30 minutes before, an hour before? I want you to let me know, please. I want you to let me know what kind of time frame before you exercise do you eat? So I want to know that. For me, I would say if I'm going to go for a run, probably an hour and a half before. All right. And if you're on this Facebook Live, please let me know. If you're on the rebroadcast, let me know as well, because I look back at these and I will know if you're on. So if you have questions, even if you're watching this on a rebroadcast, please ask. Ron is on right now, and Ron says, what's in front of you? Well, Ron, this is a microphone with, I believe this is called the diffuser. So when I say my S's and T's, it's supposed to sound better. Anyway, we're getting high tech on you, Ron. But anyway, thank you for being here. If anyone else is on, please let me know. I know we're at a different time today, but let's see how this works for everybody. Well, we're very grateful tonight. This is not a welcome to the I Move TelePT community interview. This is a welcome back to the I Move TelePT community. We have tonight a very special guest, and Jillian Warwick. So Jillian, I'm going to bring you in here. Thank you for coming back and joining our community again. Oh, I can't hear you. Hold on a sec. Oh, I hear you now. Okay, great. I hear you.
That was me. Yeah, that was me. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been maybe 5-6 weeks since we last talked. How's everything been going for you?
It's great. I mean, obviously, we're all still dealing with a lot of changes and accommodations to our business and our personal life, but, I'm just blessed. So Thank you for having me back.
So is it still beautiful in sunny Florida?
It is. Actually, today is very sunny. We had a little shower earlier, so it was very humid on my afternoon walk, but it's beautiful. Yes.
Is it true that it typically showers every afternoon for a short period of time?
It's pretty consistent that way through the summer. Yes. Yeah.
All right. Well, welcome back. We're very grateful. Just so everybody knows, because some maybe weren't on the interview before. Mm-hmm. Jillian is a certified nutritional therapy practitioner, and she has her own company. It's called Living Well Beyond. She's also a wellness coach. So I got so much positive feedback after you were on. I think people wanted me to get out and you to be the host, honestly.
Thank you. Well, I just enjoy coming on and sharing anything I can with people, even if it's after the fact, like you said, if they post questions later. And yes, my company's name is Live Well Beyond, just to clarify in case anybody wants to look that up at some point.
Oh, did I say living?
It's okay. It's all right. I've had people say Live Well Beyond. I'm like, okay, as long as you spell it right on the web, I don't care. It's fine.
All right. So Bill is on, Michael's on. Bill, Michael, and Ron, let me know, please, before you exercise, how much in advance of exercise do you typically eat? So Jillian, let me just, before we get into the 5 questions, can you answer that? Like what time frame should we eat before we're going to go for a run or some type of, pretty active exercise?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm always going to have one caveat probably to every answer and every question, which is it depends on you. And it's a bio-individual thing, which is why I work so specifically with people one-on-one. But in a larger picture, it's kind of safe to say that you obviously want to be able to focus your energy and, the nutrition that you might have taken in before or after, whatever, needs to be kind of away from the movement enough so that your body's not focusing all of its energy on digestion, and you're able to use that blood flow and energy for the work and the workout, so the movement. And I think so 30 minutes is like a minimum time frame for me. I like to go a little bit longer depending on how heavy the food is or the drink or whatever. So I would say that's safe. 30 minutes at least is important.
Okay. All right, great. Okay, so we're going to dive in. As you guys know, we always have 5 questions during every weekly interview. The first one is maybe not a question, but I want you to remind us again about Live Well Beyond and what you do, what your company is about. Just remind everyone about that.
Sure. Well, I am a nutritional therapy practitioner, and that's like the long way to say it. You could say NTP. I like to say, sometimes I'll just say a holistic nutritionist, because nutritionist is like a catch-all term. And so it's almost generic, but my training is with the NTA. So that's Nutritional Therapy Association. And the way that we operate is very different. We don't write meal plans. We're not really working within the guidelines of the government or the typical healthcare system, what they would really prescribe maybe. It's more looking at it from a holistic perspective. I work one-on-one, like I said before, and I look at someone based on their bio-individuality, meaning what does their body need? What does their lifestyle permit them to have? What are their resources, their preferences? And I see them from a holistic model of health. And so I help them dial in their nutrition, dial in their supplementation, dial in their lifestyle, as far as even sleep habits and sleep hygiene, if you want to call it that. And I do work with people in testing to some regard, depending on what we're trying to achieve. So that's kind of the long and short of it. It's, like I said, it's very much a bio-individual approach.
Okay. And how, I was curious, how many times would you work with a client? Like for example, when a patient sees us in physical therapy, it's typically see him 8 to 12 times or something like that. Is there an average for you?
That's a great question. Typically, I would say, and I've had this question come up recently a few times actually, because obviously working with someone like myself it's a commitment, first of all. It's a very specific commitment, and it depends on what we're working on, right? So let's say a client comes to me or a patient comes to me and they have a weight loss goal, okay, which is very typical because weight can be not only an aesthetic issue, but it can be an actual functionality issue. So from getting better and feeling better, and from that perspective, I will see someone the first time. We kind of go over the protocol after I've done all the intake with them. And then a couple weeks later, I like to do at least one follow-up 2 weeks later so that they have time to sort of implement whatever that protocol we've discussed is. They can adjust and digest all the information. And then after that, we might have another check-in every 2 weeks for, let's say, a total of maximum 6 appointments.
Okay.
And I say 6 because that's the average. It's not always that many for people. And sometimes people just get so much out of the process and the check-in. It's almost like an accountability. And so I can work with them down the line once a month. It could be something like that. So. And
you also, you go grocery shopping with people either together or virtually, right?
Correct. Yes. That's one offering that I have for services that aren't related to, just nutritional therapy. I can take them through a grocery store and, help them pick out the correct or better choices. That could be not part of it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Dr. Christopher Hux is on. He's a physical therapist in Chicago. He's actually from Florida, from Tampa area.
I know him. Hi, Chris.
Oh, you do?
Well, recently we've connected, and yes, we've had some nice chats. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, he's a super smart guy.
He is.
Super smart guy. Well, good. I'm glad you guys were able to connect. All right, so let's dive in. Here's our first question for you, Jillian. What type of foods should you consider including or focusing on before a workout or rigorous physical activity? So what should I eat before I go work out?
Okay, so before I chime in on this, I am not a medical doctor. I do not diagnose, treat, or, I do the whole disclaimer. I don't know the full disclaimer, but it's on my website.
Yeah.
I just want to say too, this does go back to the same caveat of who am I talking to and what is their current diet and nutrition like? So, and I'm just saying that before I answer more fully so that people understand. Let's say you're keto adapted, which is like fat adapted. That could be a whole different, picture for what you're going to eat before or after. You could be carb cycling, you could be more of a plant-based person. I mean, there's so many ways to go about this. So it's very, very individualized. So it's always like that. It depends kind of answer. But if I have to distill it down, which I've done before, and actually a couple of blog posts I've written on this, so it helps me kind of field the question for the general public answer. First of all, you want to make sure that whatever it is you're using to fuel your body is that nutrient dense, energy supplying kind of healing type foods that are going to be providing you benefits beyond just that short-term workout. But there are some guidelines to go by. So one of them is, I like to say you should try and, consider things like blended and juiced foods. And I don't mean juiced like pure sugar, all fruit, kind of even veggie and fruit mixtures that can be very hard on the blood sugar. But you can blend and juice things together that are going to allow your body to digest them more quickly and more easily. So you're going to have that food that emptying from the stomach a little bit faster if you make things more easy on your digestion. So basically your body's it's like pre-digesting foods a little bit so that your body doesn't have to work as hard. So that's one thing. I like to say if you're going to juice anything, you do need to kind of balance that sugar with the fiber, with the, maybe a little bit of protein in there. So you can almost make like more of a juiced blended shake protein drink, something like that. But again, it's about digestion in that regard.
Okay.
The other thing is just making sure that whatever it is you're using are easy to digest, carbs, fats, and proteins. So from a carbohydrate standpoint, something like a white potato or sweet potato or a yam or a taro root or, even white rice, those things are kind of the most easily tolerated for athletes before a hard workout. And then if you're going to incorporate a fat source, you want to make sure it's something that your body doesn't have to work too hard to break down, such as like an MCT oil, which is the medium chain triglycerides. That kind of oil typically is the most easily digested. Also, coconut oil can be something good there. Those are going to bypass somewhat the normal process of digestion and then get absorbed more directly by the liver as a quick energy source. And then as far as proteins are concerned, you're going to go with something more like a hydrolyzed collagen protein maybe, or a hydrolyzed whey protein. Those can be more easily digested, or even like an essential amino acid supplement that's vegan. You can do something like that. So hopefully that's kind of a broad answer to that.
It sounds like most of what you would take in before your workout seems like, except for you said the yam and things like that, mostly it's liquid. Seems like. Is that right? Or
no. So like the things you want to focus on are easy to digest food.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if it's on liquid form or a solid form.
Okay.
So certain carbohydrates are going to be easier to digest and break down than others. Something very complicated or like something that has a lot of fiber in it, too much fiber can be more digestively difficult for that workout. But if you have a little bit of something like a potato, like a sweet potato, the flesh of that, or if you have white rice, that's easy to break down for people. Typically, stuff like that's going to be part of the picture.
And we want to think about doing that, as we said earlier, probably at least 30 minutes before we work out, because we want the blood available for the muscles that are working, not going to our stomach to digest the food.
And I want to just say that 30 minutes is more for like a liquid form, if you ask me. If you're doing solid food, I'm going to say at least an hour, maybe even more. Because if you're going to carb up almost before a workout and you're trying to lift heavy, for instance, or you need some endurance, that fuel needs to be digested pretty well. And if it's a carbohydrate source, like a potato or something, then I would go even like an hour and a half, for a decent size.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that makes sense. That definitely helps to clear that up. All right. So now we did before. What about what types of food should we not take in before we exercise? What are things to avoid?
Yeah, and it goes back to digestion for the most part. I like to say that's a priority, obviously, because that's where that blood is going to go to the stomach for digestion. We can get bloated and gassy and all kinds of things, if we're stuffed full of food so close to the workout. But there are types of foods that can be even more difficult on people. So something called FODMAPs. Now, I don't know if people have heard that or not, but I'm going to try to explain. It's an acronym, and I'm not going to pretend that I can really just easily explain the entirety of it, but it's fermentable oligosaccharide, disaccharide, monosaccharide, and polyols. That's what that stands for, FODMAPs. And
wow,
it's
that's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. So that's why we just say FODMAPs. And it's just forms of carbohydrates that are, and sugar alcohols that are very much, they're hard to absorb basically in the small intestine. And then when they pass through to the large intestine, that's where the bacteria in our body, kind of a lot of them reside in the large intestine. And so that bacteria is going to feed on that undigested carbohydrate or sugar alcohol. And it's going to create that excess gas, bloating, discomfort, pain, constipation, diarrhea. All those things typically come from that reaction in the large intestine. So a few specific forms that I can tell you right off the bat would be like wheat, anything with wheat in it, dairy, any form of dairy, and even things like fruits that are more fermentable like pears or apples. So those kind of just a few there that you'd want to avoid possibly if you're feeling any weird symptoms, digestive discomfort like that. But many popular nutrition supplements, like sports nutrition type supplements, I should say, are higher in FODMAPs. Like they will come in the form of fructose and maltodextrin. So if you look at the label of a lot of these things that you get to take prior to a workout or prior to a run or something like that, they may have FODMAPs in them that you just don't recognize because they're calling them something else.
Gotcha.
So the other thing to look out for that kind of falls in the same category, it falls in line with what I was saying about the labels and having weird ingredients on there, are just artificial sweeteners and like chemicals. Because again, unfortunately, there's really great marketing around supplemental stuff and nutrition drinks and all these things and the gels and all those things typically include these different weird artificial sweeteners to keep them from having a high calorie load or high sugar load, or they have chemicals. So obviously things that we might already know are artificial sweeteners are like aspartame and sucralose and I can never say it, ACE-K, I say, saccharin, xylitol, and sorbitol are all those like very popular artificial sweeteners that are going to be really hard for a lot of people to digest. And so that gives you that digestive distress. Also, other things that we use on a daily basis can impact our kind of digestion and our digestive health, and we don't even know they're there. So for instance, like toothpaste and mouthwash can include some of these, the same ingredients I just listed off. And also like medications and beverages. I mean, there's so many things out there that have these fake sweeteners and chemical additives that we have to really be detectives and reading the labels of everything that we put in our mouth, literally, including toothpaste. So that can really have deleterious effects on our health long term.
I think when we have you come back again someday, we will have you talk about some of those ingredients to avoid. I've done a lot of studying on this, and there's things that are in our drinks and our food that I'm amazed that the FDA approves. But we could talk hours about that, but that's exactly, you're exactly right. Does it matter whether you're like someone like you that works out with weights four times a week versus someone like me who, when I golf, I try to walk when I can. So does the type of exercise that you're doing, does that affect what you should be eating before?
Definitely. Yeah. I think so. If you're looking to really tap into those glycogen stores that are in our liver, and obviously we can pull glucose from our food, in order to power through a workout. that's going to matter. So for instance, there are different plans of eating for heavy lifting and weightlifting, depending on the person and what they're already doing in their nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
But you probably don't need some really extensive carbohydrate source around a workout that isn't as rigorous. So if you're going for walks or you're doing even like golfing, things like that are.
Wait a minute. Are you saying golfing's not rigorous? What are you talking about?
No, it's not rigorous, but maybe your heart rate isn't getting up there beyond a certain point. You're doing more like mobility and you're doing endurance for walking, and you've got, so that's going to require a totally different type of nutrition than if we're in the gym lifting heavy duty weights. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So now we're going on a topic that is a great topic. Hydration. Mm-hmm. I know this is a pretty broad question, but I'm gonna have you kind of take a whack at it and see what you come up with. But how should we properly hydrate if we're going to go exercise before, after? Mm-hmm. How much water? Gatorade, bad, good?
Well, Gatorade is bad. I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and say I can hard stance on that. I don't agree with any hydration drink that has a bunch of chemicals. So I don't care if it's sugar or not. It's even Gatorade Zero or whatever it is, still has a bunch of crap in it to me that doesn't need to be there.
I was going to try to get away with that Gatorade Zero.
No,
I can't do that.
I don't recommend that because I've been through that. I've grew up using that stuff as an athlete, and then just I know better now. So and we'll get to that. But the main thing is if there are some camps out there that will say part of hydration is, and I agree with this, hydration has to happen all day. It can't just be around the workout that you chug water. It should be something that you're not, because you can be chronically dehydrated where you're just always dehydrated. So adding in more water around a workout is not going to fix that. It's not going to take care of things like joint pain and headaches and long-term problems from dehydration, including digestive issues. So if you're looking to hydrate properly, you need to start from the ground up and make sure that's like the first thing I talk to people about when I work with them one-on-one is hydration, how to do it properly. What's it look like right now? How do we make it better? But from a workout stance, some people will say, as long as you're hydrating all the time, daily, you're well hydrated, you can increase that around a workout, but you also can go by thirst. But the problem lies in not having correct thirst signals. If you are chronically dehydrated, you don't know what hydration feels like. I mean, that's just how your body doesn't have the signal. So it's smart to keep yourself well hydrated, yes. And you can do that more so by adding minerals, there are mineral supplements, there are mineral tabs, there's all those things out there. But in general, you can drink too little or too much and have performance inhibiting effects. So for short duration exercise, I would say you can drink to thirst, for the most part. But if it's, and if you're drinking throughout the day, obviously you want to make sure you're absorbing the water you're drinking all day. And the best way to know whether or not you're doing that is if you're drinking, let's say half your body weight in ounces, which is kind of what people recommend across the board. I would say that's a minimum. But if you're doing that, and let's say you increase it, or even you're at that halfway point and you're always going to the bathroom, then you're not absorbing the fluids. You're basically just flushing them out, including minerals you're flushing out of your body and out of your tissues. So it's important to make sure that you have a diet that is helping with hydration as well, but you can add some quality, really mineral rich salt, not like table salt, but like a Redmond real salt or something like that to your water, to your food. That will help with that electrolyte balance and that absorption. You can also, like I said before, there's some different supplements out there. And I have a couple of recipes that I've developed for my patients in the past and some athletes and even for kids, for kid-friendly stuff that maybe I can give you that in a handout or something to put,
great. Yeah,
or maybe send out to your email list. Yeah. But so for instance, one of them, it's basically just coconut water as a base. And then you're going to add in some filtered water to that. You've got a little bit of lime juice in there, some raw honey or maple syrup, and then some sea salt. And that's like a drink that would replace something like a Gatorade. So something
Gotcha.
very simple you can make at home, keep it in the fridge. It lasts for like a week at least. You know, it's not going to go bad. So that would be another option for you.
What about, and we may be getting into this in the next question, but tap water versus bottled water versus filtered water?
Never tap water. I can tell you that. Never, ever, ever tap water.
Okay.
Tap water contains usually upwards of 300 contaminants, and it depends on where you live, but it's never going to be good. I can promise you that.
Wow.
Unless you went to the mountains and picked it out of a spring, you know, it's pretty much not a good idea to drink water that hasn't been properly filtered. There are some spring water companies that are doing really well, like Evian and Fiji. Some of those are pretty decent quality.
Okay.
I like filtered. I like filters such as like the Berkey system is a very high quality filtration. But if you don't do that, get a reverse osmosis filtration system in your house, or even a countertop or fridge type of version of that if you can. And you may have to add minerals back to that, because when they do a reverse osmosis filtration, it removes everything. And that's good to a degree, but we're also taking out all those good minerals. So we have to re-mineralize our water.
Can you test water? Can you take water somewhere and get it tested to know, like, okay, this is good quality water? Or
I don't know of any companies offhand because I don't use any for testing, but you can go searching on the interwebs, as they say, and find quality testing done for like your local water sources. So if you just search, you should have a municipal sort of water source testing.
Okay.
But there are other resources out there where they test, for instance, like Aquafina and, you know, all like Brita and all these things. And there are some good resources out there for that to see what the quality is.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
All right, so that's going to take us into our next question. Specific brands you recommend. We've already talked about avoiding Gatorade, but what do you recommend?
Right now, I mean, this changes all the time, but the ones I'm seeing on the market that I think are doing things pretty well are things like, well, the most popular one that I know of that everyone's probably either seen or can find would be Nuun. It's spelled Nuun, and they have little tablets. I think they are available in stores locally and, of course, online. A couple of other really great ones that are maybe lesser known would be something called Elemental Labs. And if you look them up online, you would look up the word or the acronym LMNT. Okay. Another one that's really great is Seeking Health brand Optimal Electrolyte Mix. So that's a good one if you're making your own little drink mix, you know, to take to the gym or to go work out. Or Trace Mineral Electrolyte Tablets. So Trace Minerals is a brand. They make a great tablet. They make good like drops to put in your water. I use them actually. So those are the top 4 that I'm right now really happy with, but it changes all the time.
Okay. And is there any of the sports drinks that you think are good quality? I mean, I don't know all the brands by any means, but.
Well, the ones I just listed kind of in a way are like almost the powder form.
Gotcha. Okay.
Of like a sports drink mix that you can make. So things like you would pull out of a shelf at a convenience store, I can't tell you because I don't go in those.
Right. I understand. Yeah.
I mean, I really don't. I should actually probably do some more homework. I can tell you most of them. I mean, I just off the top of my head, I have to assume that majority of those pre-done sports drinks in like a Gatorade style are all going to have chemicals and sugar or fake sugars. So I prefer to refer someone to something like what I just listed, or even that recipe, you know.
It's really incredible what a company that has a lot of money can do and can sell, even though it's got bad chemicals and bad ingredients. But, you know, and I think the thing is that people get addicted to it. It's sugar. Mm-hmm. So people get absolutely, it's a drug. So for sure. Well, good. You definitely have told us so many good things. Is there anything else that we've missed? Anything else you want to educate the audience on? And be sure, audience, Michael, Christopher, Ron, Bill, if you're still on, if you have any nutritional questions, let's throw them at Jillian. So please let me know. But as they're thinking about things to ask, is there anything, I don't know, I guess is there just a general tip that you can give someone that's just merely really looking to get healthier?
Well, let's take, if I could just to stick with sort of the theme,
Yep.
hydration wise, you would be shocked, I think, to notice the improvement in your overall health if you get your mineral status correct. Mineral status can tie into it does tie into hydration, because most of the time we are devoid of minerals based on our food sources, our crops. And that's not to say anybody's bad for that. It's just the fact of the matter that our food doesn't have the soil nutrients it used to have.
Right. That's right.
So anyway, if you're looking to improve symptoms and overall performance even in the gym or in life, try for a little while just adding in either a pinch of mineral-rich salt, such as a Redmond real salt, not table salt, not even necessarily Himalayan, but like something that has a multitude of minerals in that.
Okay.
Try adding a pinch of that into your water a couple times a day where you don't even taste it. Also, you can buy, like I said, the Concentrates Mineral Drop brand makes liquid, and I will put that in my water, and it does wonders for energy, for, skin health, for digestive health. So people don't understand how minerally depleted they are. And that is a very causational problem. And so it's a foundation basically in nutritional therapy. And what I do with people is to address mineral balance. So just try that. You can't hurt yourself with it. I mean, honestly.
Yeah. I think that's so true, because a lot of patients I've treated, especially those with chronic pain, I really sense that they have bad structure collagen.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's all made up of cells, and our cells are healthy or not healthy because of what we're taking in our body to fuel our body. And people just don't, most people just don't have that depth. And I think some of that depth of knowledge it's like I started this interview with, it's a little bit overwhelming, all the information out there. So someone like you who can explain it just in a very basic way, it's so helpful. But sometimes people don't want to hear what you have to say because they want maybe a quick fix, or they want to go to the quick shop and buy something that's, no, it's going to take some work.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, you're correct. And it's one of those things where a lot of times when I call someone, I do free consults. So if anyone ever needs to decipher whether or not they want to work together, if it's going to be a good fit, I like to give people that opportunity for me to talk with them for a few minutes. But that's where it becomes quickly evident whether or not they really, sometimes they'll talk themselves out of it, or they'll talk themselves into it. But I'm here just to be that resource for them. And I tell them very blatantly, this is a process, this is a commitment, this is an educational process for you. And it's also going to give you tools so that you get to then decipher how to proceed down the road and keep making the right choices for your body. So you're not being handheld the rest of your life at the doctor,
Right. So. Absolutely. We do have a question for you. Ron says, what about sea salt, Celtic sea salt?
Yeah, Celtic, whichever. That is a good source of salt to a degree. I will caution that, and this is just kind of recent news in a way, they're testing the sea salts more and more that come out. And what they're finding is much of it that actually, obviously it comes from the ocean, right? It's a sea salt. The reason I'm leaning against that now is because our oceans are full of plastic, and they're finding microplastics in the sea salt. So that's where our toxic oceans, it's so sad, but our oceans are becoming so toxic that we can't pull the water and the sea salt out of there and make it a healthful part of our life. So the reason I always say Redmond real salt right now as a standard is still very pure, and it's coming from Utah, and it's coming from an area that's not directly fed by the ocean. It's tested, it's got tons of minerals. I'm very happy with it. I've used it for years. So that's why I kind of steer clear of anything that's an ocean or sea salt.
Okay. Yeah. And it's, how do you spell Redmond?
Redmond.
Okay.
They make some other products too that I love, like I think toothpaste now. Like, they're really cool, but they make amazing salt. It tastes delicious. I use it for everything.
So do you use that, like if you were going to cook and it called for just normal table salt, use that in its place?
Yeah, they have grinds of like fine, coarse, all that stuff. So you can find them on Amazon. You can find them in your local grocery for the most part. So, yeah.
And he wants to know, how do you add it? How do you add this?
So if I'm doing the Redmond real salt in food, it's just like, normal cooking. But if you're doing it in the water, what I tell people is just like pinch it into your water bottle. So like, for instance, I think this is like a 20, but these kinds of bottles here, what I'll do is I'll just fill up my water bottle and just take like a generous pinch of that sea salt or that Redmond salt, excuse me, and put that in there. And I don't really taste it, but it's going to give me that little bit extra mineral boost.
Interesting. Wow. Is there, and this may be a question you can answer, I don't know, but would one have to get blood work to see really what their mineral levels, where they're
You can. Well, I would say, sorry, I shouldn't cut you off. I didn't mean, I was just thinking to myself, blood work is not really the go-to, the standard for mineral balance. There is a hair tissue mineral analysis you can have done. And that's stuff that I can either order sometimes for my patients, or there are ones out there, I believe, that can be just ordered by anyone. But that's something that's going to measure the minerals most accurately.
From your hair?
Mm-hmm. That's one of the best. That's one of the best ways. You can also do it through, I believe, urine, but hair tissue mineral analysis are going to be like a nice way of seeing over time, like how your body has utilized not only the minerals, but also, other like nutrients.
That's awesome. Okay. Yeah. I had no idea. So,
but urine is another good one for people as well.
Yeah. All right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I may have you give me some of this info, and I'll put it into a post so we can share this great information.
Sounds good.
Well, as always, you are so knowledgeable, and I know that my community loves having you on here. It's nice to know that you give free consultations. So everyone that watches this, you should really take her up on this offer, and she will help you, and maybe she can guide you. You can see if you might be appropriate to work with her, but my gosh, she's a wealth of knowledge. I'm going to give you Jillian's information right here. So there's her email address and her website. Yes, it is Live Well Beyond, not Living Well Beyond, as I said earlier. So, but please check that out. And I definitely want to urge everyone. This is such an important part of our health, because no matter how much you exercise, if your diet and what you're putting into your mouth is all off course, you're not going to get as much out of your workouts and your exercise as you should get. Mm-hmm. And just overall health, and just wellness, and living life as healthy as we can. And we're not going to eat everything perfect. We're going to do everything right. But the more knowledge we have, the more control we have, the more control we have, the more power we have, the more power over our bodies. So I think it can be a huge fight against chronic pain. I know that so many people I've treated with chronic pain, their diets are just atrocious.
Yeah, it's been eye-opening even for me to get to work with people over the years and see the changes and see what can really come about from simple changes that they just don't even understand. They wouldn't have known. It's not their fault. There's no education coming from the mainstream kind of like medical world for that. And we're all marketed so many things that are confusing, that if you don't come work with someone like myself who is living and breathing it and just always on it, that's my life, and that's why I love what I do, because I get to educate and help someone choose properly for their life, their preferences. Not everyone likes Brussels sprouts. I mean, I love chocolate and coffee and all the things, and I can tell you what's the best choice. So it's about making the best choice based on what you love.
What's your favorite coffee brand?
Right now, I have two that I love. I always try to go with something that's been mold tested, and that's a whole nother show. But I like Bulletproof brand, like the coffee bean Bulletproof, and then I like another one called Purity. Is kind of new. It's more like you can't get it in the store yet, but I like anything organic. First of all, that's priority number one: organic coffee. So
Starbucks?
No. I used to be a Starbucks junkie, honey. I was a Starbucks junkie. And it made my body feel terrible. So I haven't had that in a long time.
Even just their coffee? I'm not talking about frappuccinos and all the
I just only had their espresso, but I won't drink it anymore. It's garbage.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry. I used to spend my whole budget on that stuff. So I'm not even saying I wasn't part of that crew. I used to start my day with all kinds of Starbucks. So
every time I bring you on and hear you speak, it's such an eye-opening eye-opening experience.
I know
So,
I could spend hours telling you about the coffee thing, but I won't because, I know we have time limitations, but maybe next show.
all right, awesome. Well, thank you so much. We love having you on here, and you're
Thanks
such
for
a
having me.
pleasure to learn from. So we will I'll promise you we'll do this again.
Yay, good.
But please reach out to Jillian, because I'm going to take advantage of the free consultation. I
Yay.
already know most of the things I'm doing wrong, but I got some other questions for her that hopefully she can answer. But thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks.
I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe down in Florida, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much. See you soon.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, thank you, Jillian, for being a part of this. Awesome, awesome, awesome as always. I want to, first of all the dads in the community, happy Father's Day. That's this Sunday. So enjoy it. Enjoy whatever you enjoy doing. Please do it on Sunday. You guys, all the dads do tremendous things. And so we're very, very grateful. So please, please, please have a great Father's Day. And also come back Monday. Monday we'll be back, I believe, at our normal time, 7 p.m. Central. No specific topic yet, but I'm working on that. But I encourage you to come back Monday evening, 7 p.m. for another great I Move Tele-PT Facebook Live event. You guys have a great day, and stay healthy and stay home and stay strong. Have a great weekend.